With school starting soon, you want to make sure your kids are healthy before they hit the books. Dr. Elizabeth Curlis is here from East Cooper Medical Center to help give parents a back-to-school health checklist. Back to school in about a little over 2 weeks from now. Right. Why should your child have a wellness checkup on that list?
Well, we like to make sure you're healthy before you head back to school, and we review your growth, your development. We talk about some learning, and if you had any issues last year with maybe reading or writing or speech or anything like that.
Awesome.
And then we like to review your immunizations and make sure you're on par with where you need to be to attend school.
Now, immunizations, depending on their age and what grades that they're entering, that kind of varies as far as what vaccinations, because there might be a year where you may not need to update your vaccinations before you go to school, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Depends on your age. For example, a 4-year-old doesn't need as many as, say, a 10 or 11-year-old would need.
So now I know I have a soon-to-be, he'll be going into 7th grade this year, and around that time, about 12 years old, there are 3 shots, including HPV, which is kind of recommended, even for boys.
And that's new. It's recommended for boys now. It started just for females, and they have gone on with studies, and now it's recommended for males too. So at that visit, you'll get your HPV shot, your Menactra, which is your meningococcal, and your Tdap, which is also really important.
Now let's talk about, there's been an uptick, especially right around here in the Low Country as well. Whooping cough is making a surge. How are we dealing with that when it comes to immunizations?
Well, you need to make sure all of your children are up to date with their DTaP when they're young, and then their Tdap, of course. And then anybody an adult that is caring for a newborn or children, even grandparents, need to make sure they're up to date on their Tdaps.
Oh, awesome. So when they go, then they can possibly ask those same questions, whether or not they need it as well.
Absolutely.
Because we find that most kids, actually the majority of kids, all kids will not be accepted into school unless they have all their vaccinations up to date.
That is right.
Wow.
That is right.
Now let's talk about some new recommendations that may have come up, because immunizations haven't changed much over the decades that everyone's been getting them. But is there some new things that are out there now?
I think I find the one that kids miss the most are the second varicella. It used to be recommended that you have 1, and now they require 2. Your Tdap vaccine, you need to have at 7th grade around there. And Menactra, we started out giving one of those. That's the meningococcal, and now we give a booster before you go to college around 16 or 17 as well.
Now, what happens if the child, misses these very important immunizations? What's the worst that can happen? The
worst that could happen is you acquire that disease, and some of them are life-threatening. So to me, that's the worst that could happen. Otherwise, you might not be able to attend school, or they might send you home until you have that vaccine.
Exactly. Now, with school, of course, starting up, and within the first week or first, let's say, semester or so, what are some problems, maybe some learning problems that could come up that a pediatrician can address?
We address lots of learning issues, and from the young ages, I think we see a lot of maybe speech impediments or speech delays. And I think the older kids, the more problems that we see are attention deficit. That's probably the most common that we see the complaint of.
Now, do you find sometimes too that there's always a quick diagnosis for ADD or ADHD, or what are some things that you can do in your office to kind of rule that out?
It's never really quick, but we go into an in-depth discussion of past learning, and we have some forms that we have you fill out, and we evaluate your child pretty in-depth before we'll make that diagnosis.
All right, so on that back-to-school checklist, immunizations, make sure everyone's up to date. And of course, with the HPV, if we could revisit that again, especially for boys and mainly for girls too, is that something that you have to have, or is that sort of by choice?
No, that's by choice. It's not required for school, but we do recommend it.
And it's also best that people also read up on immunizations and what's in them, and maybe some of the side effects, if there are any.
Absolutely.
And you can find those pamphlets at your office.
And discuss it with us.
And discuss it with you. Thank you, Dr. Curlis, for joining us this morning. Well, coming up, it's a problem that can affect us all. Darkness to Light is here to talk about child sexual abuse and to share very important information for parents with school starting just around the corner. We'll be right back.